So thanks, Siddarth, for joining us in this session, which is sort of a hybrid between a classroom guest speaker presentation as well as a podcast. So we will record this and then we will release it on our channel. As you guys would know that we have this Immersification channel over here, which the students are quite familiar with because we use this to release some of our videos here.
Okay.
So other than making videos for the module project, we also hope that these videos can serve the wider community, because some of these things are just talking about hardware, software, in developing immersive applications, and we try and present it in such a manner that it's not just addressing the students, but the material can be used for the class. So hopefully this session and maybe upcoming sessions next time can also be used as part of the channel. So
yes, thank you. Yes, thank you for having me, and I think that's really cool. I think XR as a industry is accelerating, and so the more places where people can find help and information, the better it is.
Yeah, that's cool. So I think you have also prepared some slides. Thanks for spending time on that. So maybe we will start with that.
Sure.
But a short introduction, although I've already sent it. But the as we call I guess series, I think it's more proper to let people know who you are. So I am Chek. So I am the module lead for this Developing Immersive Applications module at MIT Singapore Institute of Technology. And here we have with us today is Mr. Siddharth Jain, who is the Chief Metaverse Officer. Very cool title of LDR Pte Ltd. I think we met some time ago.
Yes.
We were trying to discuss some collaborations between SIT and LDR.
Yes.
Yeah. It was very cool to see how you have built some of the engines yourself, so, which is why I also reached out to you for this session, because I think it is just appropriate to share and hopefully motivate some of the students our kind of work. Okay, so I think I'll leave the rest of the introductions and to you.
So yeah, just to add on a little bit, I wear three hats. The first hat I wore voluntarily, so I'm the founder and creative director at Playware Studios. Playware is a game company now, I think almost 19 years old, and I started it in India. We got some funding and we moved to Singapore back in 2005, and Playware does a lot of game-based learning, and it did a lot of immersive experiences. This is before virtual reality, extended reality, augmented reality became cool. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of, you'll see me saying this a lot actually. We were kind of some of the pioneering people in the applied game space doing work in this sector, and it's really heartening. It's really cool to see everything that's happening. So I've always been a creative director, mostly kind of solutioning from the design perspective. Then quite recently I've joined LDR as the Chief Technology Officer, which is a very new role for me. It's significantly different work ethic. It's a different style. It's the kind of people that I'm working with are also slightly different. And Chief Metaverse Officer is I'm part of this company called Immersive, right? And the Immersive is in it's a company that's going towards listing, and so I'm the Chief Metaverse Officer there. We've done some work with DBS Bank. We do a lot of work with the defense industry, with healthcare, etc. So I wear currently three hats, and I'm not really sure how to talk about it.
But just to understand a bit more, saying that you are Chief Metaverse Officer at
Yes.
Immersive,
Yes.
and also the Chief Metaverse Officer at LDR.
Chief Technology Officer at LDR. So there was a small difference. Yeah. So I think the main differences between the terms is Metaverse Officer is more a business development kind of role, or like an evangelist role, technology evangelist role, whereas the CTO is more tech focused. Look at, it's like a internal versus external focus, that kind of thing, right? So yes, it's one of those things that I have been doing, and I've been struggling with because just the way these jobs work out, they're quite different from each other, right?
Really cool to hear that you guys are preparing for.
Yes, we've been on the journey for
company.
Yes, we've been on a journey for IPO almost for
That's cool.
2 years now. Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is a topic that's really close to my heart, and that is basically development for WebXR. So a lot of people know what extended reality is. I'll just do of course we are in the Immersification Center, so I'm pretty sure that everybody knows what's happening, right?
Maybe
Yeah.
release the video, the public who doesn't really understand what XR is.
Yeah.
If you want to,
So I'll start with
perspective of what XR is.
So one of the things that a lot of people have to understand about the technology sector in general is that a lot of these terms are umbrella terms.
Yeah.
So extended reality means a lot of things to a lot of people. And so do all the component terms inside. Virtual reality means a lot of things. So for instance, virtual reality typically means something where you're using a headset. But virtual reality, like virtual worlds used to be these online worlds which are virtual in nature, right? Virtual itself has no hardware specific paradigm, the term on its own.
Yeah.
Augmented reality, pretty straightforward. Augmented reality used to mean, you're holding up a device and you're seeing through something, but then people invented, all the fancy goggles and, HoloLens and, Magic Leap and things like that. And now, that became augmented reality, but then they started saying mixed reality, and then now we have video pass-through on the Vision Pro or the XR Elite. Even Focus Pro does it, and Quest does it very well, and now that's kind of mixed reality, extended reality. So I guess extended reality is an umbrella term. The way I like to think about it is if you're building a 3D interactive, you're building an experience which includes 3D or 2D digital content interacting with some sort of representation of the real world, right? Whether it's just a wireframe, just to tell you to be safe, or it's video pass-through, or indeed, there's something in front of you like your lens or your glasses that are able to project something on them. All of that umbrella term is extended reality. So that's how I believe extended reality has kind of come to be. So because quite honestly, it's very confusing, even as developers ourselves, because sometimes we're talking to a customer and they're like, oh, we want extended reality. And I'm like, great, okay, so, but yeah, just we want it on a mobile phone, right? So, yes. And so that's always a yes, right? So what you don't want to be is you don't want to be pedantic with your customer and try to explain to them the differences between the different types of realities. So XR, in my view, is this idea where there is a substantial amount of virtual or digital information that needs to get overlaid somehow into the real world, right? So that's how I kind of say it. Now, WebXR is special, and I think it's actually it secretly got a huge boost recently, and I'm just going to come and talk about that a little bit. But WebXR is this idea that you have browser-based content that is also extended reality in nature, right? And so WebXR can be stuff like Niantic's 8-Wall, where you're running a cloud-based server and it's able to do some pretty neat visual positioning. It could be things like you have an HTML5 page that's allowing you to play a multiplayer 3D game, or a lot of these different types of things. And of course now with better video pass through and better, virtual reality capabilities, I think that there is going to be some significant new types of content, perhaps that we can't even describe in the terms that we use today: augmented reality, virtual reality, and we would have to kind of lean more heavily on the term extended reality. And web extended reality is always going to be exciting, is because web content inherently is fast-paced. Right, it's faster paced, it's fresher, it's in control of the developer, right, and therefore it has a lot of features that are things like just-in-time content. You can do that. You can do headless content management. You can do a lot of security patches and updates very quickly. You do not need to have the user wait for the content. So WebXR is really, really cool. Why it's going to get cooler is because recently Google's announced that they're ready to start rolling out web GPUs, right? So that means your browser is going to be able to access your GPU. I'm like, the main thing the game engines tell you that they do that web pages can't do is the fact that there is a separation of how much hardware processing power can be used by a game engine, because they are a native app, right? And versus what you could do with an HTML5 game engine, for instance, or so far you can do with something like Babylon.js. But now, with the access of web GPU, I think that a lot of different people are going to, I'm not saying that, I'm not one of those people who ever likes to say one thing is going to kill the other thing, or, I think everything can exist, everything has its own niche, but I think WebXR got a huge push, and it's going to be very, very interesting.
Before we dive deeper into WebXR, I know we meant to do a presentation first, but from what you have just gave us in terms of your perspectives of XR, I just wanted to ask delve a bit further on how does this XR term actually mean to your line of work? Does it, that somebody creating this umbrella term XR, does it actually translate into how you develop things, or is this a term to you to define the space? Or is it that it is trying to, devices are trying to become all sorts of things? I'm not sure what your perspective on that is.
Your question is very epistemological in nature, and the reason I kind of called out to it is because I think language plays a very important part in everything that we do. So my companies, all the companies that I've worked with and I work with, we don't do consumer-facing technology. We usually do enterprise-facing and government-facing technology. So, I do a lot of work with all hospitals. I work with, in Singapore, all the hospitals, SingHealth, NUHS. We do a lot of work with defense. So I work with pretty much, just right now in the office, we've got like some people from one of the formations down looking at our XR demos and stuff like that. We work with banks here. We've done some really big work with the DBS Bank, and they are fully web, by the way. They came in with, when we started all of them, they were looking at Sandbox, they were looking at AltSpace, they were looking at some of the other systems, and then they chose a browser-based, fully web engine eventually to work with. We work extensively with the Ministry of Home Affairs, with Police, Customs, Narcotics Bureau, etc. So my work is very B2B, right? So business to business. It's a different kind of industry than B2C, right? And it has been for the last 20 years. And so terms become very important, because terms are what kind of excite customers. Somebody reads an article, somebody goes sees a demo, and then they come and they ask, can I get an XR? And I have, so few seconds, because, we have a huge library of work over the years. My teams and I, we've done over 600-700 experiences that we've developed of all natures, right? We work, like I said, in all the various different kinds of sectors and all kinds of skill development. Smaller projects, but a lot of them. So we have a very short amount of time to try to understand when a customer is saying XR, what do they mean? Are they talking about augmented reality? Are they talking about virtual reality? Do they require multiplayer? Are they talking about high fidelity digital twins? Are they talking about, a headset or 6 degrees of freedom? So there is a lot of this thing, a lot of this kind of information that's packed into a term that a user uses, right? And so I think terminology becomes therefore very important to us, and we kind of we take the time to unpack that in the kind of general consciousness in the industry. So maybe you're watching LinkedIn or going on X now, Twitter, right? Or even just reading academia articles, just to understand what everybody understands by a particular term, right? So I think that's kind of important, and that's why I'm kind of almost borderline pedantic about making sure that I'm using the right specific term for whatever we're talking about.
That's saying that because for us, to the students in the module, we actually started off with trying to be clear about what we are saying in terms of AR versus VR versus MR, which is the subjective term now, and now
extended reality, yes.
And how that actually can translate into how we design and develop for such experiences, and knowing where on this continuum are we trying to develop an experience for. I think eventually all those will manifest in what we are trying to build for a certain customer need.
Yes, and I tell you, I can tell you something as for a developer, for a person who's like an academic, say something like 3D, right, can really trip you up, right? I've had a project that almost got derailed because they said that we wanted to make this game and they want to make it in 3D, and so we pulled up Blender, we build our thing, we put it into Unity, create an FBX, put it into Unity, we show them an interactive, and they're like, this is 2D. I'm like, no, this is 3D, and then I'm trying to show them that this is 3D, but no, what they meant was they wanted like polarized glasses, and they want like a 3D popping out of the screen. So it can become, and especially if you are as a practitioner not able to differentiate yourself, and if you're kind of unfamiliar with it, or if you can't understand why somebody might be thinking about something in a different way from you, you can you can lose a lot of work basically.
Cool. I think we should
let's start. So let's go to the first. Yes, let's go to the slide. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I guess one of the core concepts that you've got to kind of understand today is, again, immersion means a lot of different things. I'm like, there's a time I'm like, you can still go and you go to, say, Gardens by the Bay, and you look at their climate change exhibit. That's immersive, right? You go to the Singapore Science Museum, and that's immersive. And so immersive means many, many things to many, many different people. And so for the sake of specification, I wanted to kind of establish that today, when I'm going to talk about XR, we've done a lot of caves, we've done a lot of touchscreen applications, we've done a lot of different types of things, but I wanted to focus today on specifically.
What is a cave?
Like an immersive.
Okay. Find that term to them.
Okay, an immersive cave-like application is basically this idea where you use multiple projectors, like you put the projector on the floor, you put projectors on the walls, and what you've got is a 3D or any kind of virtual environment that you've set it up. And now what you do is you track the user, right? You can track users in different ways. You could have them touch the screen. You could actually use like a Kinect or a IntelliSense or a camera like that to actually look at where the user is going. You could use I've even done projects where we've had like a IR grid, right, for figuring out where the user is standing, where crowds are standing. You can use CCTV surveillance nowadays with, some pretty neat AI tools that can tell you where the user is standing in a room and what they're doing. And with all of those ways, you can actually capture what the user is doing, and you can change the virtual world of the cave with whatever the user is doing, right? So some pretty cool examples of stuff that that have been done are things like, you have water on the floor, and the water is a projected water, but when you walk, you leave, trails, right? You can have things like, you have fire, or you have, again, you can be in space and things like that, and you can be kind of controlling something or moving along with something that's virtually there but really not there, but it feels very realistic. So caves are a kind of an old term, but it's kind of a critical term as well. It's still used colloquially in the industry quite extensively, for especially talking about projectors based immersion, right?
And a very difficult thing to put together in terms of
Yes.
hardware.
Yes. Well, nowadays, again, technology is moving so fast. So the LED curtains and with LED light boards that are segmented, you can actually build some very, very interesting. I think if you go to the Changi airport and see I think in Terminal 2 or 3, they have this massive waterfall that's quite immersive in nature, and that's pure LEDs, right? So no projector inside there. So it's quite interesting. So today I wanted to talk specifically about hardware in terms of, when I say HMD, head-mounted display, so something that can project in front of your eyes, something, right? Typically, I think everybody knows that if you're starting in this field, that that typically you have one. We have binocular vision. Human beings have binocular vision, so we do need two screens, right? Especially when they're close up to your face, one for one eye, one for another eye. There are some very exciting technologies that are coming out soon in the next year or so. There are somebody just patented contact lenses that can project in front of the screen, in real, etc. There's a lot of glasses that are coming out with some pretty interesting stuff. And so, anyways, any of those things that project something in front of your eyes, that's a head-mounted display. Typically, it can also do other things. So it can also have like a gyroscope inside, or a couple of gyroscopes inside, or in fact, it can have cameras nowadays as well that can help track your head, track your hands, etc. So it's like it's kind of like a Leap or IntelliSense or Kinect. It's got projectors towards you and cameras facing outside, so they can look at the world, scan the world around you. So that's a head-mounted display, right? Controllers, there are many different ways in which you can have controllers. The typical pucks that everybody has seen on HTC Vive or Focus 3 or Quest 3, those are controllers as well. But of course, you can also have body tracking suits, or anything. In fact, today, because of 3D printing and the ability for us to put something inside, trackers inside almost anything, you could have anything. You could have wands or swords or anything that you want to have as a tracker, right? As a controller, and it'll have full 6 degrees of freedom. And again, some of the new stuff that NVIDIA has just released, we will be able to pretty much track any unknown object in 3D in real time, as long as it's in front of the camera will start going to understand because of AI. It's got what is it, 6DoF anything, right? There is something from NVIDIA. It's really cool. So, and then of course you've got advanced things like you can have a vest or like Mujo, right? You can have a vest or a belt that can give you haptic feedback, or it can also take feedback from you, right? So you can have any kind of sensor like that. And of course, output is just the inverse of the same thing, right? HMD with stereoscopic rendering, that means you're rendering slightly different angles for each eye. Spatial audio, again, binaural sound is awesome nowadays. There's some really cool, very immersive games that have been built. Almost no visuals, just the sound itself is so awesome and so 3D, so realistic that it can completely freak you out. And of course, you need high-end devices to render all of this stuff, right? So we're going to talk about this ecosystem rather than all the other types of ecosystems that we could be having, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so
And,
let's.
all these things that you are talking about, are they things that you are trying out, or things that you are trying to use in?
So we use. So like I said, we do a lot of work with healthcare. I'm sorry, I can't show you much of my work because everything is. We sign Official Secrets Act for pretty much all the work that we do, and so. In the healthcare space, we've got like all the PDPA and health medical record NDAs and stuff like that. On the military side and the Ministry of Home Affairs side, we've got Official Secrets Act, so everything is locked up. What we can share is like there's a lot of papers, academic papers that come out on our work. Recently, some work that we've done with melanoma detection with SGH dermatology is just being released into several academic journals, and basically we've done a lot of this kind of work that shows that XR training, XR interventions do have an impact on how people behave and how they work, and how skilled they are at their work, and it does real change in terms of cost savings and efficiency improvement for organizations. So that kind of information is available. Right?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it would be great if you can share what you can. I think
I'll share.
Although we are academics and we sort of want to share most of what we do, we are in a similar situation at SIT that with you. Most of our projects are with the industry,
Yes.
and a lot of the solution side of things we can't share, but the technique and the technology that
Correct.
we use to develop them, we sort of try to make them
Yes.
open. Yeah. So
Okay, yeah, I mean, like, just keep clicking. I think we've talked a bit about this. Wujur is a very interesting company. It's actually built by, the West is built by a very good friend of mine. He's the CTO, Uri Karif. What they do is they do audio bass to give feedback on your whole body. It's very cool little piece of tech. So Kevin, of course you've got the gloves. There are a lot of different types of gloves. I think NUS is doing something very interesting with spiral forces. There is gyroscopic gloves. There's gloves based on IR sensors as well. Nowadays, actually, a lot of the devices themselves can track your hands, like Quest 3 and XR Elite, and they can all track your hands quite well. But I think the interesting stuff is still to come, where we've talked about some of these cool little concepts that I've seen, where you've got membranes that, when stimulated by electricity, can harden up, and so there are kind of experiments on that allow you to hold things in your hand, and you can actually feel the sensation of doing that. Of course, there's also very interesting work being done with brain interfacing, and so maybe we just kind of bypass everything and have a circuit that just lets you feel the virtual as realistically as you feel the real. So yeah, let's move on. Of course, you've got all kinds of. I see you have a treadmill right here.
Yeah.
So treadmills are treadmills are very, very cool as well. And if you haven't experienced one, you should, because it actually gives you quite a lot of freedom in virtual reality, and it makes you feel quite immersed in this. And then I wanted to show you just one new one. I thought that was pretty interesting, and it's one of the coolest looking pieces of tech that I've seen recently. It's just like a full 6DoF, be Superman, right? Go out there, be Superman. The boots, the gloves, the bodysuit, everything is kind of rigged in, and so you can run, jump, fly, swim, everything, right? So it's quite interesting. And so what we will see that there's a lot of progress being made by a lot of companies, but typically what we see is that economies of scale only come for a few companies, right? So I'm like, Wario had such an awesome headset for such a long time. It's even today, it's better than your Vision Pro, right? But the pricing, $10,000, nobody's going to be able to buy it, right? So I think one of the biggest things with computing is that or I guess with anything, is to bring the price down to a level where most of the public can enjoy it, right? So a lot of these cool things, they are very, very cool, but unless they kind of figure out how to commercialize it and get larger scale adoption, and those economies of scale work out, right? We don't know who's going to win the war, and we don't know what's going to become the standard of this kind of industry. So this is one of the reasons why. In fact, another reason why WebXR is so cool, because most of WebXR development is in the open space, right? So you're not actually linked to or closed by any one particular ecosystem. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk.
Sorry, can I just shift the mic a little bit since you're facing this way?
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about, just this one is just basically. When we used to conceptualize, immersive experiences for customers, and I say used to because a lot of this work is like at least 5 to 8 years old, right? We would look at what kind of hardware paradigms we would need, and there was a lot of customer education in trying to make them understand how we would set something up. There was also engineering challenges. So with projection-based systems, there was always an issue with how much light, what's the weight-bearing attitude of the frame and things like that. Even where we would kind of go and put these systems on for public use, even things like hygiene used to become a challenge. So one of the earliest touchscreen interactions, immersive touchscreen interactions that we did was in 2009. It was a place called 4DI Lab. It was done for the Canberra Primary School as part of the Future Schools project. There was 45 square meters of interactive touchscreen, a room larger than this one, where you had a virtual world being projected, stitched together from 14 odd different computers connecting to the internet. And then what you could do is you could actually have characters on the screen that people could control using their mobile phones. And I am talking so old. It used to be Nokia phones, right? And people used to kind of control those characters, and so you had like 40 characters on the screen moving around. So it was a very, very unique experience. But we actually patented that technology. We did some pretty cool stuff with that, but it didn't really take off. We did about 3 or 4 other labs like that, but not very many more, right? Because just setting it up and selling it, the sales cycle was so long, setting it up was so long, the space utilization was so long that it was very difficult to do as a consistent thing. But with today's technology, a lot of this technology packs a lot of the features that we used to kind of aim to do, like camera vision, person's posture awareness and things like that.
So are you like
quite on the fly, right?
Tell us a piece of history of
yes.
how hard it is previously to do some of this.
Yes. It used to be much harder than it is now, okay. And it's getting easier and easier. Right? I'm like the first time that we tried to do hand tracking with Oculus, we literally had to stick a Leap camera on top of the Oculus headset, Oculus Rift actually at that time, right? And that's how we could kind of track the fingers. And today, pretty much every HMD that comes out with hand tracking, right? So there's a huge kind of improvement, and this is the time where understanding the development for these things, the component technologies, becomes very, very extingent, because it's just from here it only proliferates faster. Yeah, it goes everywhere. So let's just go to the next slide. Yeah, this in fact is another setup which is like a cave-like environment with touchscreens and XR events. And again, as you can imagine that setting up something like this extended reality used to be a lot more expensive than it is today, right? And it's getting cheaper. I think there's one more slide for as an example. Yeah, this is like a setup of something, right? So it's a multi-user, multiplayer setup. It can still be kind of complicated, right? Setting up all the various components of something. this, if I'm not mistaken, this was for a military exercise. I think it was for the infantry gun range training simulation. I can show only this part, but basically what it used to do is it used to train about a platoon of people together, right? So you could actually see what your commander is saying, and then you can also see what your teammates are doing. So it was a multiplayer thing, and so you needed multiple base stations, multiple Wi-Fi routers, and multiple computers with storage and stuff like that, just to pull off something like that. So, but with newer headsets, I think XR Elite out of the box, I think can do a 2-player setup with pretty much nothing extra needed, right? So yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah, I think to me, what this shows is sort of like when you try and create such experiences for real world use cases, it really goes beyond just trying to create that virtual 3D environment, as well as all the interactions that are needed. It requires a lot of different aspects of computer science to put together, like networking, making sure that all the OS can interface with each other, as well as just the physical setup of everything needs to be set up in a certain manner for all things to work.
Yes,
really
absolutely. One of the things that one of the projects that I remember very clearly was we had a system that we had released and sent. This was a workplace safety training thing, right? That we had done, and that time I think I had done it with I can't remember the headset.
Long time ago.
Yeah, it's almost 8 years ago, but it was 7-8 years ago. Yeah, probably Rift, or if not even a Rift, maybe. Yeah. So another one. But what I was trying to tell you is that it would work very well. The experience would work very well in the lab, but somehow the customer kept telling us that they were having a lot of glitches and crashes, blue screen of death all the time, and we were like, what the heck's happening? And then eventually, you're like, okay, let's just go down to your location. And you see, this was a workplace training center for foreign workers. So there was no air conditioning, right? Yeah. There was heavy machinery in the area. So there was a lot of dust. It was very hot. So the PC just was overheating. Okay. That was it. that was the crash, right? Every time it would come back to us into the lab, and we'd be like, what's happening here? What's happening here? Why is it crashing? Why is it crashing? We couldn't find any reason for a crash, right? But the system was overheating on the site, right? So, in fact, it helped us change one of our key. So we do a site tracking now for all our customers. It doesn't matter, right? Like, oh, you got air conditioning, great. But let me go and do like a Wi-Fi signal check if there are any dead ends or anything like that. What kind of connectivity do you have? What kind of throughput we get and things like that. So everything, right? Everything from heat to humidity to interference can have an impact on something. Another project we did with IDA, we set up before IMDA, before IDA and MDA, we did a project for showing future cities, right? Smart Nation 2015, right? This was, and I think we set it up at a place where it was a Wi-Fi setup, right? And just this was near Suntec, right? And there was so much foot traffic there with so many phones going past, right? That our very, very powerful Wi-Fi router was crawling, right? Because of the interference, right? The Wi-Fi signal was really, really, really weak, right? So again, I mean, like, anything can trip you up, right? So you just.
Which also reminded me that recently, remember that I invited you to be a guest panelist at the AAAI academic conference, and originally agreed and couldn't come due to you having to solve a critical issue as I shall not name what, but creating this metaverse for a company.
Yes. Yes.
Things like that.
Yes.
Real world issues.
Yes. Yeah. It's, I mean, like, when you're a service provider, right? I'm like, the show must go on. So, yes, software, right? What I really like about WebXR, and we don't use Babylon JS as much. We actually prefer Play Canvas, but pretty much the same thing, right? I like Play Canvas because in our team we have like a lot of people who are Unity, who use Unity. All our designers use Unity as well. We do a lot of work with Unity. So it's just easier in a full 3D editing space, right, to move and have the designers do development as well. I'm very specific about one thing. And like I hate it when programmers and developers are doing design tasks, right? I'd rather them have them kind of look at code and improve code, right? And if it's just about setting something up, the parameters or something, figuring out, playing around with it, playing around the aesthetics with something, right? So I'd really like to have specialists on the team, right? So a game designer, gameplay designer is not a programmer. So, can be a programmer and he knows programming, but he's not doing the programmer's work in this, right? Programmer's work is to make sure that the memory is working fine, the code's optimized, we're using like the best kind of optimizations and what our run cycles are, what refresh rate is and stuff like that. The designer is who gets to figure out where the stuff is in space, or looking at that kind of thing, and then the artist is the one like looking at the aesthetics thing, right? So I never trust a programmer judgment and like this is pink and this is not pink, it's purple. No, let the artist do that, right? So so again, that's one of the reasons why Play Canvas kind of works better for us.
I'm trying to understand, why would you want to make a very clear, distinction between the three roles, as you explained, the programmers, the designers, and the artists, right?
Okay.
I'm not sure because this slide shows software components.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just coming to that. I mean, like all that rant was because of Babylon JS and Play Canvas.
Yes.
Why Babylon JS is much more like a compiler. It's like the programmers are very happy playing around with it. The artists kind of feel miserable because it's not very visual. Play Canvas is more visual. That's the only reason why. And designers again are more visual people mostly. So that's. I think the differentiation is very important, and it's I think very often when we are in just starting out, we don't really think about a lot what we really want to do. But when you start doing stuff professionally, when you start working with teams of people who are really good at what they do, right, and have chosen to specialize in something, then you realize that it's really important to be able to defer to somebody who kind of spends all the time thinking about one particular set of problems. So I think that's one of the key things. Like I said, choice of tools is kind of important for that, right? So, anyways, so the WebXR, I mean, like main idea is that you're using maybe OpenXR or some platform, basically interacting with the hardware components. You always have to be a little bit more conscious of the fact that you don't have as ready an access to the hardware as you would in most other situations, and so that's kind of one kind of things like that. The other thing that you kind of must kind of think about is that thinking through how you set up your 3D engine, or if you're using up using a pre-set up, figuring out what sequencing is done in how your engine loads the assets that you have can make a huge impact. So for example, if you typically have like a scene object interaction hierarchy, right, you may not be able to necessarily do very procedural scenes, right? right? So you've got that kind of challenge, right? You really do need to think about what's the fundamental, because again, at the end of the day, computers just understand math, right? So what's the fundamental approach that you want to take with the math of your scene setup, with your interaction setup? And I think that's kind of important. A lot of times what I've seen is that a lot of people, whether it's Unity, whether it's Unreal, whether it's Babylon, whether it's Play Canvas, it's any other engine that you may have, what a lot of people do is they just look at whatever is provided as the template or the starter kit, and they're like, that's it, that's all there is. But actually it's not, right? So different kinds of things can have very different kinds of ways in which you can set stuff up. And then of course finally, like I say, right, gameplay, in my worldview, gameplay or interaction is kind of extremely important, because you really need to think through that, and often that should not be limited by or it can be informed by, but not limited to what you can do with the ecosystem that you've created. So because a lot of immersion is the heightened state of awareness or engagement that you're putting the person in to, right? And so it's not about me putting my hand up and down, it's about me flying, right? So I should feel like I'm flying, right? So the appropriate reaction to whatever it is that I'm doing, that can mean the difference between a successful experience and a not a successful experience, right? So you want to make sure that you separate these things, and you're able to approach each of these challenges separately in whatever development kit you use.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of questions on WebXR, but maybe we should move on, and I'll ask those questions and
sure.
Maybe be a bit in depth. So, let's look at what's next.
I'm like just sort of covering everything, right? When you think about immersive software, scenes, cameras, lights means something very different from conventional 3D game development or something like that, because especially because of when you have video pass through, or if you're talking about augmented reality, how the scene is kind of lit in the real. Somebody knows Play Canvas. Oh, awesome. Yes, I really like Play Canvas. Yes.
Yeah, we're just reading Clementine's comment.
Yes.
That you want to take a look at.
So scenes can mean completely different things. Especially, I think Apple's done some pretty cool, neat work on how they define scene geometry, because of their main focus is video pass through, right? Lighting again is one of those things that can be hugely influential in selling to someone if something is actually in the virtual world, the real world or not, right? So like if this cup was an XR cup and it was sitting on this table and it didn't meet the lighting, right? Or I didn't know how this room's lit, or I didn't have some sort of sensitivity to that, can kind of have a huge impact on the whole immersion thing. 3D meshes and models, I think you can call them rendering surfaces. You can, many ways in which you can approach it to the Studio 3D. In an immersive space, how you are approaching the virtual geometry. Again, that can be quite, there's a lot of very deep psychology, psychosocial conditioning, in fact, instinct that comes into this. For example, you might have heard of, this idea that when you try to make something, the uncanny valley effect, right? When you try to make something very realistic, we reject it, right? The human brain rejects it. But if you draw two dots and a curve under it, that's a face, right? So
the deep fake thing is a
correct
perfect example.
Yes. Yes. So it's a lot of people are very focused on the Gen AI stuff of how we could make realistic look humans, but I think the human intuition on being able to find that is going to change the way your interaction is. But what I'm actually more excited about is all the fantastic stuff that we were going to be able to see that we couldn't have ever seen before, right? So, I'm more excited about that kind of thing. Input handling in XR is, again, it's a huge field, right? Because everything from foveated rendering, from gestures, from body language, from EEG, ECG monitoring, anything could be an input, right, for extended reality. Anything can be an input for extended reality. Yes. So you, as a developer, sometimes I'm like, I genuinely miss the old days. Sometimes it was so easy, like it was WASD or a controller or a mouse, right? Like, it was so easy to kind of think about what the user is going to do. But now we don't know what the user, like, the user may want to do pretty much anything, and every time it's a new adventure. You're going to learn new tricks, right? What works in one setting does not work necessarily in another setting. If I wanted to teach you about how to climb ladders, the kind of gesture recognition that I need, it's completely different from if I'm going to teach you how to handle a knife, because suddenly the object itself and its orientation become important, right? So, and since not all of these things are input devices, input is a real consideration. And of course, finally, this is one of the things that I think everybody is scratching their head about. What should physics be like, right? What should or should not be happening in the virtual world, right? In the real virtual real, right? In this imaginary space in front of us, what can or cannot be happening? Because suddenly, if I have this character that's moving around and walking on my carpet, but suddenly walks into my sofa, and that kind of spoils my immersion, that's not very cool, right? So you've got to think about what other things that you can see or cannot do, or can do or cannot do, or how do you sell a story into your physics, or your physics into your story. I think those are kind of very new paradigms, which are not very traditional, right, in development. So yeah, one of the key concepts that I think, while they're very familiar for single developers, when we are doing development, a lot of people get involved in putting something out, right? There's a lot of people who are getting involved in putting content out, right? You've got all kinds of technicians. Like you've got artists, you've got programmers, you've got designers, you've got all kinds of tools vendors who are coming in with all different kinds of input, variables, APIs, etc. Your SDLC, software development lifecycle, your design patterns, your infrastructure, all of those become critical components, and it's very iterative because it's something. If you want to change something, sometimes it can become a fundamental thing if you've made the wrong kind of design choices, or you've chosen the wrong tech stack. Something as innocuous as adding a new interaction may become impossible in your development pipeline, right? So with every step that you take in the pipeline, you narrow the potential of what's to be delivered, but at the same time, if you leave out something in early testing, that's absolutely not acceptable for your customer. That can mean catastrophic revisions for your project, and this is one of those things. I'm like, not mine, somebody else's project that I saw. There's a grant project, a 2-year project. They were about 20 months in, and that's when they hit the panic button because fundamentally what they were trying to do they wouldn't be able to achieve, and they had to kind of reset the project, and then that's when we got called in to come and rescue that project. And it is like it's almost, it was a full for us it was a full redevelopment, right? And so it can be a very, very costly mistake. Of course, in this case, the client refused to foot the bill for the full redevelopment and redesign, and the vendor foot the bill, our bill, right? So it's one of those things in the real life industry. You don't think about the fact that our design process is iterative in nature, and things have an impact. They have a flow in as things are going, and a lot of people have to get involved to get something out there. So, I mean, one of the things, a lot of people who are in development like to think of themselves as like geeks and nerds, and we're not people, but you have to be people, right? You're going to work with a large team of people, and you have to be people. There's just no excuse.
Yeah, and again, I like how you point that out, that in the end, this whole thing about the developing immersive applications, it's still a software engineering project, and there still needs to be a lot of attention placed on this aspect of the whole work, which is also why in this module at SIT, we also assess them in software engineering in their final project as well, just to highlight the point that this is still something that you need to put a lot of care in, and in order to make that whole team project work. So yeah, cool, this slide. But just wondering, this slide itself, was it meant to show somebody to put forth a certain point?
I'm like, one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about is that it is a collaborative process, and many people get involved at many stages, and then there is a lot of iteration that happens in the development. And what I wanted to kind of show is that another thing that I kind of tried to do with this graphic was try to show that over time there is convergence, right? And as you've kind of developed more and more, you've already kind of come towards the end of that convergence. And so often when you try to make a change post facto, it's not so easy to do, right? And it, if you see some of the resets, right, what I wanted to show is like something that requires to change can absolutely reboot your project. And the thing that I wanted to kind of point out to this is like, this is everybody's time, right? And that's money, right? So, that's why I think it's a very kind of important thing to learn how to kind of communicate well with everybody on the team, go through test at every step as early as possible, look at your fundamental integrations and actually put them out there, because hey, I can give you an example. I did a project recently, like you just mentioned, right, for a financial institution, and everything I do uses WebSocket, right, and WebSocket was not allowed in their integrated development environment, right? And so we had to kind of completely go back to the drawing board and figure out how we're going to do multiplayer. So something as simple as that, right? I'm like, just because you're used to using a tool doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get away with using that tool all the time. And so, again, so you need to know the fundamentals of why you use a particular tool. Don't just blindly pick something up and just say, I do this because I do this, right? But you need to understand why, right? Why IPX, why not TCP/IP, why HTTPS, right? There's a reason for all those different internet protocols existing, so at a fundamental level, you may feel like, oh, this is not going to be my work. I don't need to know this, but it is, right?
Indeed. Yeah. Get the fundamentals right.
Yes.
Okay, I hope that project panned out.
Yes. I just love this, right? Absolutely love this, and I think everybody in the XR space should be using this. Google has this really cool Geospatial API right now. You can pull out some pretty details about pretty much any city in the world, and you can get started with doing your development. If you're going to use, say, Adobe Aero, for instance, and you use Adobe Aero with Geospatial API, it's going back to the Flash days, right? It's really neat XR work that you can do really quickly with some very surprising results. I just threw it in there just for people to kind of try it out. We did a project recently with Gardens by the Bay. we heavily used Google's Geospatial API to pull down all the reference models for all the domes and all the super trees and stuff like that. So it saved us a ton of time doing
I
development.
guess that is pretty low res.
It is low res. It is low res, but for XR purposes, it's perfect, right? I mean, if I need to just, I need to put something on top of a building, right? I want to put something near the Marina Bay Sands, and I want to set this up in an XR environment. I'm not actually referencing the model that much, but just to be able to understand the lay of the land without having to try to guesswork it, right? That's pretty cool, right? So,
importantly, the positions of
yes,
everything.
yeah. Relative positions and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty neat. And I think there's as these technologies improve, that Google's actually working on their own visual positioning systems and things like that. They're even coming indoors. There's a lot of work being done by companies like Immersion. That's also to do with indoors. 8Wall themselves are doing some VPS stuff. I think Lightspeed it's called. There's some very interesting, universal APIs that are going to be available for development of especially kind of geopositional kind of XR infotainment or entertainment or even educational or informational content, right? And I think that there's a lot of space for that. I have always believed that XR is like it's custom built for tourism, right? I'm a tourist. I have a device. I need information. I want to look around, and I don't really want to be stuck to my screen, right? And that's where XR comes in, right? And so as we improve navigation, tourism, all kinds of wayfinding, I think they're going to be very interesting. Aside from the Pokemon Go's of the world, there's going to be a lot of interesting interactive entertainments there as well. But I think you're going to see that more and more informational kind of content, navigational content is going to be XR, and I think that's where it's really, really cool, right? So yeah,
and this is for WebXR or not?
Yeah, for everything. I'm like, Google's Geospatial API you can pull it into Babylon JS, you can pull it into Play Canvas. We've done some pretty neat stuff you can put it into Blender actually, and then just extract all the info you need and do some very interesting stuff with that. Like I said, there's an integration with Adobe Aero. That's very cool. Google's doing some very, very cool work with Singapore Tourism Board, which is very cool. So, yeah, it's also really cool to play with, right? Just so let's carry on. This one is reality capture, and that's photogrammetry from Apple, and again, I think Niantic has got to play there as well. You do know Niantic is actually owned by Google, right? So it's very interesting stuff that's happening as well. So photogrammetry, NERF. I think the next picture is Gaussian's. Oh, this one is Gen AI, but yeah, the one after that is Gaussian Splat, right? We are going to start seeing a lot of this kind of 3D capture is going to be able to kind of allow us to create a lot of content really, really quickly, really, really fast. I think one of the points I'd like to kind of make with Gaussian splats are really, really cool. There is another one which is called TRIPS, I think, trilinear point based system. I think it's like if you do TRIPS in Gaussian splat, they'll give you really, really cool. Yes, I can't keep up with all the terminology. Yes, trilinear point splatting. I did get it right. Okay. Yeah, that's really, really cool as well. It gives very, very accurate 3D models. This is a really cool site. Actually, if you go down, they have an example with 2 sliders that you can kind of move left and right, and you can see how cool the effect is. And it's okay. So Gaussian splatting is this technique where you take Gaussians. Gaussian is a color spectrum, right? And you basically create splats of it. So basically different colors. It's how we perceive human beings. Of course, we do it at much, much higher degree of fidelity than then cameras are able to do it. But this idea that you can use the radiance fields, the light and the colors to understand what the geometry looks like of something, right? Which is happening right now in this room, right? I can see those boxes over there. I can see that cupboard over there, and I know that they exist, and how they are orientated based on the way that light's interacting with that, right? And so Gaussian splatting is a technique that is used for capturing reality, and these techniques are getting much better with AI, right? So there's this company that does this really cool UAV drone based 3D video capture, right? They have a 360 camera attached to a UAV drone, and they fly it through any building, and they can instantly capture that building. Okay, so it's not very high fidelity. You can't do like a sale of that thing. But for a police team that's going to try to do like a breach or an invasion of that property, they can get really good information about how to move around in that space just from one drone flying through, right? So there's some very interesting work happening already in how we are able to bring not just the real world, the virtual world into the real world, but the real world into the virtual world, right? And so it's a two-way process. So what I wanted to show with the last three examples, like Geospatial API or Gaussian splats or NERFs or reality capture, this is a two-way street, right? The real world is also getting better represented in the digital space again, which is going to create for better meshed experiences, enmeshed experiences between what is virtual and what is real.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. We do some of the tree reconstruction research here as well, and it's cool to know that from the industry also looking to apply some of this really state-of-the-art Gaussian splatting using neural networks to represent 3D geometry. Have you tried using it for any?
Yes, we have a couple of projects that we are doing. The typical workflow is we used to use a lot of point clouds, right? The problem with point cloud data is that it's huge. So we started moving to some other types of photogrammetry. We started looking at like a lower fidelity options and things like that. But then AI comes around, and with the Gen AI, there are so many huge advances in how quickly you can get a very good sense of a 3D scene. We still use some sort of a hybrid process, so we are still defining some geometry and then filling in some other geometry as well. There is some really cool texture filling AI also that's coming in. Unity has some really interesting stuff as well for textures. Unreal has some very interesting stuff for textures. That when you combine that with Gaussian splatting or NERF or even simple photogrammetry can give you some very startling results in terms of how realistic something can look, right?
You have to do a lot of work in terms of finding the API and then making it work for your particular use case.
Yes, a lot of work. What we are doing is basically interiors of military vehicles, right? So it's the challenges are quite unique. It's not something that a lot of people are looking at, right? So we had to do a lot of this stuff as well. The thing with academic papers, a lot of this stuff is still academic in nature. There's no support. Just to replicate, so it looks really cool. Sometimes the results are really cool, but setting it up and making it run is sometimes really hard. Especially for commercial users, I'm like you will be a little bit extra careful.
Well, are you guys using normal cameras or?
The latest one we are using is the 360 camera. With Insta360s with a software that sort of commercially available. I mean, like the company is I can't talk about them right now, but it's a US based company that's providing paid support in helping us transfer those videos into reality. So the a lot of the stuff that's actually available commercially online, when you read the fine print, you can't use proprietary data with them, right? So that's a big challenge as well.
Gen AI.
Yes. Okay. So this one, I swear I had a point when I put this in last night. It's the hot button topic. Yeah, hot button topic, right? I think yes. I think the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is we are encouraging all our developers to do a lot of work with AI in general. We're a small team, and I think there's going to be a lot of companies with small teams. All of like yes, all the companies are small companies. None of us is a large company, but even in larger companies, there is a push for people to start using AI. We've heard the refrain, right? This is going to take jobs before, right? Now, when industrialization came, that was the refrain, right? It's going to take away jobs. Yeah. When computers came initially, became big, people were like, this is going to take jobs. Yeah. AI has come now and people are like, this is going to take away jobs, right? Yes, some amount of displacement does happen, right? So when cars came around, everybody who owned a stable got out of work, right? It's going to change, but if you have something to say, if you have something to express, and I know this is what I mean, right? When what I mean is that when you're in this industry, right, you're here because you have this urgent need to create, right? You want to develop. When you are in this industry, you need to be able to take that expression and do something with it, right? And so nobody's going to be able to stop you. Right? No amount of progress is going to be able to stop you, and new ways are going to be found. Like TikTok came along. When I started doing video work, so I used to play video games, and I used to work in television, right? When I started working with video, it was very expensive to own a video camera, right? Even a Handycam or something like that was potentially, it's an expensive, specialized piece of equipment that you can't do anything else with. Not like your phone, that you can do like a million other things with, right? So not everybody was eager to go in and buy a video camera. So it was difficult to do. It was impossible to think about something like TikTok, right? Because how would so many millions of people create? Like how could there be millions of creators? It was impossible because creating video was a very specialized kind of task. Same with photography, right? There was a time where photography was used to be taught in school, right? And I think some schools still do, but it's not really a very relevant course today because pretty much everybody takes their camera, points it and takes a photograph. I'm not trying to take anything away from the art. But what I'm trying to say is just because something becomes commonplace or easier to do doesn't mean that it completely, it changes the industry, but it doesn't kill the industry, right? So you adapt and you have to do things. So I think Gen AI is one of those things that, it's very different from AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is also coming around the corner. Gen AI is one of those things that's, I think, definitely really, really fun to use. For developers, it's easier to kind of look through your code and find faults, find helpful suggestions to how to improve your code. There's no excuse for anybody to be able to have lazily written code or uncommented code now. I think everybody has the ability to write the very finest code that they can, and it's kind of becoming so with everything, right? Whether you're writing, whether you're designing something, you have this constant companion who has a ton of knowledge, right? May not have a lot of wisdom or experience, but you can interact with them and refine whatever it is that you're doing, right? There's a difference between using GenAI to do all your work and using it as a tool to refine your work, right? So I really kind of think that it's opened up some really interesting possibilities in 3D content creation, in extended reality content creation, everything from storyboarding to scripting to programming to even thinking about your project as a architecture and things like that. Everything you can today use. If you use the appropriate AI variant, you can actually get benefit of that into your work, right? So I think something some people should really look at.
I think what I'm curious is whether other than leaving it to all the individuals to figure out how to improve your work using these tools, as a company, do you
Yes. So we have this thing that we do in our company very regularly is basically anybody learns something, they can share it with other people. And we constantly keep kind of pushing each other and looking at stuff. So one thing about we won many innovation awards. We just enjoy going in and signing up for. So I think as a team we have this culture of pushing each other, every time we do like incremental innovation, modular innovation is how we look at doing this. So every time we've done something, we like next time we go in and pitch something, we try to do something new, right? And so with all our projects, we constantly keep trying. Again, I mean, like if a client is constantly delighted with what you're doing, they are less likely to go to other people, right? So you want to be able to kind of make sure that they have something exciting to look forward to. So we are, implementing AI-based characters. We are improving, in our art flows. We are actually in our programming flows. A lot of people.
What tools you are using for it?
There is Unity. Unity has some very good texture things. We are creating a lot of character generation with things like character creator and things like that. That there are some very interesting stuff that's going on. For animation, we use tools like Rapport for doing facial animation with just from audio files and stuff like that. For setting up your virtual characters, Convoy is really cool. There is
with all these things, are they very proprietary and cost quite a fair bit of money if you're deploying it? It depends on what the budget.
So the way that we typically do this is so you got a parallel effort, right? So most of it doesn't matter if you're talking about a 45 billion token LLM or an 8 billion token LLM, both of them can pass off a pretty decent speech. Except the 7 billion token LLM can actually run on NVIDIA 4090, right? And so this is what we do, right? Basically, when we are pitching, we use whatever's off-the-shelf service, right? And whenever we have to kind of deploy, in our quote, we include a deploy off-premise, right? Which is, of course, a huge saving in cost in the long run. And so a lot of our customers choose that kind of deployment. So that's how you do the right kind of usage. Again, there are things like Google's dialog flow, for instance. It's a little harder to learn, but the cost per usage is actually quite low if you're going to implement something that thousands of people are going to use or millions of people are going to use. So most of these tools, if you're only going to have like 100 odd users monthly, it doesn't cost anything. Most of them don't cost you much, right? So there's a lot of different ways in which you can kind of cut this, depending on what you're trying to do with what you're trying to do, right? So
well, looks like you've involved in a broad range of different technologies that are needed for,
we call this as an umbrella term, right? Like that's what I meant. Like basically, the idea is that when you are an XR company, you are going in and doing XR work, and XR basically means different things to different people, right? Digital avatars, also XR, right? Digital concierge, also XR, right? Navigation tools, yes, XR, right? So a lot of different things are XR. So, and again, not just XR. I've been a game developer my entire life, right? And I believe that it's a fundamental responsibility, duty, work ethic for a game developer to constantly look out for new tools and learn how to use new tools. Woe be to a game developer who's become comfortable with using one ecosystem and continues to use that ecosystem. If you haven't read it, there's this book called Who Moved My Cheese. It's applicable to game developers more than it is to anybody else in life. Right, game development is the only fast-moving consumer good type of software development in the world, right? Fast FMCG. Who moved my cheese? It's a very, very old move.
Move my cheese. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
So you can't keep going to the same thing and trying to eat the same cash more than anything else, because I've seen so many people, I've seen studios die out because they've never innovated on that pipeline, right? I can tell you a story, something that happened to me. We were doing MMO development and I was heavily using Garage Games Torque game engine, and I loved Torque. It was one of the best engines. It had a network library component called Talk Network Library that could support 128 people per shard. And I'm talking I'm saying 2006, 2005, 2006. It was very easy to set up, 1,000 player virtual world, 5,000 player virtual world with Torque.
I forgot that exists.
Yes. It spontaneously combusted, right? It just gone, right? And we were doing so many projects, and we were very heavily reliant on Torque, and suddenly it was no more, right? It was literally suddenly it was no more. They got bought out. Then there was a fallout between the current team and the new team. There was everybody left, and they open sourced the engine and they got out of support. We were a B2B company even that time, and we didn't know where to go, right? And so we scrambled, we looked at many game engines that eventually started we started looking at Unity, started using Unity at that time, but learned a very important lesson. Just because we use Unity doesn't mean that we don't know how to use Godot or Unreal. So everybody in my team needs to know multiple game engines, right? You need to know, yeah, great, you use Unity every day, excellent. Once in a while, I'm going to tell you to do an Unreal project, or I'm going to ask you to do a Godot project, or a Play Canvas project, or a Babylon.js project. You need to be able to keep your fundamentals and the tools that you use separate.
I also remember that you showed your own game engine as well on top of all this.
Yes, we've written. I started with writing my own game engine, one of the first game engines out of India. That was using DirectX. This is a long time ago. Long time ago. I wouldn't start with writing my own game engine today.
You wouldn't train your own foundational model today for the speech. Okay. Yeah, we digress quite a bit. So look at what we meant to talk about. Jenny, okay.
Yeah, Jenny asked us as the Gaussian splat, and then we can move on actually.
Because,
this is just about the Gaussian splatting a little bit, and then move on.
Did you? I'm just curious whether you found a need to understand what is Gaussian splatting. When you're trying to use it to
always. If you don't know what you're using and what the limitations of what you're using are, it's going to come back and bite you really, really, really hard. That's it. I can tell you from experience, right? Everything has limitations, and it's always better if you are in a professional setting to to know the limitations of whatever it is that you're using.
Cool. If this podcast ever had a sound bite that you need to cut, I think it's advice, especially prudent for all the students here who are online.
Of course, it's also fascinating, right? How the whole like you think about the whole process of thought of how. Again, you can't understand Gaussian splatting if you haven't actually spent some time looking at nerves. You don't understand radius fields if you have not looked at point clouds. I'm like, so it's also a little bit of like, it's all these things are connected, and there's something you can't understand point clouds if you don't fundamentally understand 3D geometry. I'm like, it's all math, right? It's all math. I love it. Yeah, I love it when somebody comes and tells me, I don't like math or I don't get math, and I'm like, yes, bro, even I don't. Even I don't. And like, trust me, if I was to try to do high school math today, I can't. But as a game developer, if I don't think math, or if I don't have to understand math, and if I don't understand why I'm doing what I'm trying to do mathematically, I'm screwed. Because then it's like it's trying to eat everything with a long straw with the spoon attached to the end of it with a camera or something on the other side where you really don't know what's going on, but it's not going to be the same, right? So you have to understand this stuff because
another great piece of advice. If you don't understand math, you're screwed in most things, especially if you're software.
Software development. It's just yes, and extended reality, game development. Yes, especially. Yes. I tell you, this one. I have a story. I was making a cricket game, and I spent more time studying about parabola than I have ever, because simply just trying to make the ball move realistically after I was hit without a physics engine, because this was at that time when I was making this game. This was in 1998. We didn't have enough processing to really do real physics, so we were trying to figure out how to kind of distill the process of the ball hitting the bat and the ball then flying in the air and making it look realistic. Insane. And it's like, I always just think, why am I going to use geometry? Why do I have to learn geometry? Why am I was like, shit, if I paid more attention in school, teachers, life would be so much easier.
So while all of you guys who are live right now are still in school, I think please, show you.
I tell my daughters this, right? Tell my daughters this. There's always two ways to learn life. One, you have organized curriculum that's handed out to you by people who really thought about what you're trying to do, and you can study that curriculum realistically, honestly, or you can go out into the real world and then the curriculum is going to really hit you in the face. And you're going to have no structure and you're going to have to try to absorb it all and try to do it all.
Sometimes as humans we need to go there before we come back and recoup all the things that we have lost.
Yes. Clementine, yes, absolutely. Deterministic games is turn-based games is one thing. I did board games. I did a board game design with multi-color die variations and how much probability I had to study just to make sure that every type of dice roll was not overpowered from the game perspective, right?
Yeah.
I swear I failed statistics in school regularly because I used to I'm not going to be a gambler. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm a businessman and I don't care about this stuff. And at that time, to be honest, nobody thought about, statistics like that. I was like, I'd rather spend my time learning accounts, right? And yes, I didn't know I'd become a game developer. That's a different thing. But everything, everything you're learning in your curriculum, useful. Math curriculum, most useful.
Yeah. So you can conclude the tactics. Yeah. Right. Maybe we should bond. Next.
Okay.
Evaluation.
Yes. So In the extended reality space, one thing that really surprised me as I started doing more and more projects like this, and as a company, as we're doing more work like this, is that it really makes a very large number of people very uncomfortable. Right?
Sick.
Sick.
Okay,
There is. I have something coming up
Okay.
about all the ways in which it can make you uncomfortable. And what I've learned is if your experience is immersive and comfortable, it does a whole lot better than if it is highly accurate and very interesting or whatever it is, but uncomfortable, right? And for existing, if you're going to try to do anything in this space, right, less is more, right? Doing just the right amount to sell whatever it is that you're trying to sell, right? So step one, can I sell whatever it is, the idea that I was a presence, right? The idea is that, does the user feel like they're part of this experience? Number one. Doesn't matter how realistic your graphics are. How many graphics you have, are you kind of using full virtual reality, or if you're using just a object in space, but does it feel to the user that it's like something that's sold right to them intrinsically? Does it make them feel disoriented or motion sickness or any of those other kinds of things? One of the key components, and I think I've seen so many ways in which this has been wrong, right, is that developers start developing and they're like, oh, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this, and if I use the controller like this and then this and then I cut this and then I put the other controller like this, I've got this really cool interaction that really is really. If it's not intuitive, right, the user never going to find that content. They're just never going to find that content, right? The simplicity in this, right, in design and in the approach for storytelling and everything is extremely important. And finally, right, is it kind of compelling in nature or whatever it is? Something simple, something small, something enjoyable, a lot more powerful than spending all your time and effort trying to build something really cool, right? You'll get kudos in the development community, right? But you'll always be like, shit, why isn't this picking up, right? One great example is Beat Saber, right? The most popular virtual reality application out there. It's super simple, right? It's absolutely simple, and it's like, you're like, why is it so popular? Well, because people get it. People just get it.
And I promise I did not show Siddarth any of my slides, right? I didn't show you any of
What
my
slides?
slides for this module.
No.
Yeah. So what I'm saying that is because this the stuff that you put here is actually very similar to what I tell the students to focus on when evaluating experiences.
Absolutely.
Presence is the same word.
Yes.
Cyber sickness is what I use for your second one.
Yes.
And then I had the third one is flow, which
Yes.
is part of the aspect is to understand that
Yes.
what you're controlling, it being intuitive and stuff, so that you get into the flow of the experience. So good that you are recording.
It's pretty obvious, right? I'm like, it's the first thing that you'll notice, right? So I have similar responsibility like you do. So when I'm working with my developers, there are so many things that people want to do, right? So often as a developer, you're like, I can do this and this and this and this and this and this, right? So it's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. But, and it looked really cool, right? But what happens after the first 5 seconds when the guy starts to feeling sick, right? Or when the person's kind of completely lost about what to do with their hands, or, where to look, right? So it's just not gonna, it doesn't take off, right?
Yeah,
and simple things, when people are kind of looking at it's actually really hard to do simple.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lot of things that people don't understand, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing as it takes a longer time to write a shorter.
Yes.
Like So
Mario is one of the most respected games in the game design community for a reason, right? It's very elegant in its design, very, very simple. And yet it can give you as much, engagement or more. It is giving more people more fun than something like Dark Souls or, GTA or whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying those games are not fun, but intrinsically a simple game, it can kind of draw you in and keep you there. And Tetris, right? If you haven't played Tetris, try. I'm like, just play Tetris competitively, and it's such a simple game, but yet it's like profound, right? And it's storytelling, right? So this is one of the things I kind of believe that great art can sell the same thing simply.
Yeah, and it's really good that you have experience from both game industry and building immersive products to offer this perspective. I also wanted to find out, just now you were talking about immersion versus cyber sickness. I mean, for our module here, we sort of use immersion as a more umbrella term to include cyber sickness, presence, and flow, and other things that that improve the feeling of being immersed in some digital experience. But just wondering, just now you was talking about comparing these two, whether there's anyone that's more important than the other, like presence, cyber sickness, or engagement, or usability, intuitiveness.
I have a couple of slides coming up on this.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, it may be the next slide, actually. See, the secret sauce in my view is the user will feel like they're really there and they'll be comfortable while they're using it, and they'll have fun. That's the secret sauce, right? If you can get everything together, right? They feel like they're there, they're doing whatever you think that they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, three things together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're comfortable and they have some fun, right? That's the secret sauce, right? To any XR content, right? So
it means that everything is as important.
yeah, it's simple. It's
Neglect any of it. Yeah.
So the next slide comes up, right? So basically, a lot of people feel quite uncomfortable, and I think this was just making the point, right? There has been a lot of research around why people fear. What are some of the kind of factors that go into making people feel uncomfortable in virtual reality or mixed reality or immersive reality experiences, and there's a lot of different things, right? I'm going to start with something very, very fundamental, like just age, right? Just age has a huge impact, right? We do work with geriatric care, palliative care, and some of the people who are older, much older, 60-year-old, 70-year-old, 80-year-old people, can get very disoriented very, very quickly in the slightest amount of movement in a virtual reality setting. Okay. I actually have a theory about this, right? Now, before I kind of step into this part, I just want to kind of talk really, really quickly. As an evolutionary trait, right? Having all our senses alive, and we have a lot of senses, right? We've got our hearing, we've got sight, we've got touch, we've got our sense of time. It's very important for animals to have all their senses aligned, right? If you ever imbibed alcohol or if you do drugs, you know that people feel vomitation, pukish, right? And actually that feeling of feeling vomitation, pukish is very similar to what you would feel if you were poisoned, right? And a lot of the kind of things that you feel when you ingest something poisonous are very similar to the kind of cyber sickness or virtual reality sickness that people feel. What's happening is your eyes are giving you one signal, and so your eyes go straight into your occipital lobe, right? That's going straight in, and this is visual signal. And so the part of your brain that processes visual signals is behind your brain right here. You have the orbital frontal cortexes, which is your sides of your ears, right? And all of this is, you know, that we all know that we live a little in the past, right? Because whatever I'm seeing, whatever I'm hearing, my prefrontal cortex, which is the active part of my front brain, is helping me kind of be aware of the situation that I'm in, right? This is also getting info from my inner ear, which is telling me about my sense of balance. It's getting from my, in general, my haptic sense, my hands on this, one of my feet is crossed and on the chair and things like that. So what's happening is that my brain's constructing a view of where I am in the reality, based on all these sensory signals that I'm getting, including my sense of time. When I put on a headset, the refresh rate for the headset, and even in the best headsets, is slower than what our eyes can capture, right? And the headset's computing where I'm looking, and then there's using a gyroscope to re-render the image based on my head motion, right? And so what's happening is my inner ear is actually noticing that my head has changed its positioning, right? These signals clash, because my eyes are seeing something completely different, my inner ear is feeling something completely different. It's like reading a book in a moving bus or a car, right? Or looking at your phone in a taxi, right? It makes you feel vomitish, because it feels like you've imbibed something like poison, right? Or something psychedelic, like a drug or something, and your body wants to puke it out, right? So that's the first part. Second part is, typical reaction to eating something poisonous is slowing down because body is getting ready for a fall, right? So your blood pressure goes down, right? Because if you're going to hit yourself and fall and you're going to puncture yourself, not so much blood loss should happen, right? So your body is really preparing. So, the low blood pressure, the slight kind of cold sweats that you get on your forehead, the feeling of vomitation, these are very natural reactions. They're not sickness in the way that we understand sickness. It's not like flu. This is a natural reaction. The body is trying to protect itself, right? And so a lot of people with a lot of triggering factors, right? Different concentration levels, people who have a slight amount of Asperger's or are in the spectrum with autism, or with attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder and things like that. People with various different ethnicities also have different experiences with various things. So there's a lot of different types of studies, and that have shown that there's a lot of different types of things that happen to a lot of different types of people with things. So, that warning that you get in Nintendo always when you switch on your devices. So some people might have epileptic seizure because it exists there for a reason, because people have had those kinds of experiences, right? So there's one more slide here. Actually, it talks about, if I'm not mistaken, you've got a lot of factors that can have issues with, again, with over extended VR use, right? So as a company, we do a lot of work with B2B VR, and one of the things that we make sure is that we always have I always call it the eye condoms, right? We have this thing that you have to wear on your face before you put the headset, so that you're not having a lot of contact from hygiene purposes. You've got to do something similar with making sure that your lenses are clean and things like that, right? You have to understand that you're actually, when you wear a head-mounted display, even if it's something like an XR Elite, which is quite light, there is an extra constant pressure on your neck and posture and things like that. You, of course, have this occlusion of reality as well, where you're not seeing what's happening. It's not just exposure while you're wearing it. When you take it off, also you can have issues, right? So there is a lot of different types of things in shifts in perceptions that can happen with XR, and that can cause some significant amount of discomfort to a large number of people. And so, coming back to the original point that I was trying to make is, right, keeping it simple. It sounds like it's just something that I'm saying because, I'm not comfortable with something or something like that, or something I'm saying offhand. But actually, if you look at the research and if you look at the impact this industry is having globally, you'll understand that keeping it simple is it's a must-have sector, right, to do things well. Another thing that kind of, I think the next page basically kind of drives me to this, right? It's there is a potential. There's a massive potential for misuse. I mean, like if you've seen the Matrix movies, it's entirely possible, if we could get lost in virtual reality, to not want to come back to real reality. It's already happening. I mean, like, it's not like this needs to be, I think the more immersive the content gets, the more likely it's going to have that kind of change. I was just watching some documentary yesterday about how people in Japan are increasingly becoming asexual, right? And it's becoming harder and harder to have proper relationships. And there's a significant amount of polarization between the genders, as well as in the way that we perceive views or lifestyles that are different from ours. And this is already happening. Like there are families in the US which can't eat meals together because of the different forms of social media that they consume, right? And so if I'm from a conservative mindset and I'm, right, the liberal is the enemy, right? They're worse than, the Russians. So there is this level of impact that media can have on people, and you've got to wonder, as a practitioner, as a proponent, as an evangelist of this, is whether this is real. And I think the next picture is perfect as well. I think you just go to the next one. I find that this is a very telling thing, right? And I really like this picture a lot because you have this billionaire who's kind of very happy about the fact that everybody else is plugged into a different type of reality. Right? I'm like, I say that there is some amount of, and I say this because I'm coming from the games space, right? And like games increasingly have become, as an industry, very exploitative. With gacha games and things like that, going out to people's wallets, people becoming completely addicted, right? I am a person who spent my entire life in serious games and applied games, and can vouch for and will talk up and down the, any kind of debate about whether games are good, and I do believe that they are very good. But it's also true that they can be made very addictive, right? It is possible to get completely entranced in the virtual reality. It's a great escape. It's a beautiful way to get out of feeling bad about yourself or feeling sorry for yourself. And as developers, I think it is also kind of one of the things that you have to think about constantly. What do you do with this awesome responsibility, this ability? And this is just kind of more philosophical, right?
Yep. Not sure if you're comfortable answering this question, but you just mentioned something about addiction versus, I think creating an experience that is
engaging or fulfilling.
Yeah. So similarly, that's when you're talking about games. Similarly, for immersive experiences, we also want them we want to create as the developer of that experience, something that's highly immersive that people forget about
Correct.
the real world and stuff like that. So how would you
It's
balance? How would you differentiate between creating something addictive and harmful and
Yes.
something immersive and positive?
I'm all for what we do, right? I am all for creating stuff that is fully immersive and engaging and allows you to lose yourself, forget about reality for a bit. I think that this is a very fundamental task we perform in society today. I think it's really, really important, and it's just like when I say creators, I mean all creators, right? I mean, like, whether it's a musician or a filmmaker, and trust me, I mean everyone, right? Including people who are born, right? There is a need for fulfillment, and people fill it with content that they create, stuff that they create, art that they create. You always can go into doing it too much, right? So, and there are companies that are very well known to farm, whales. And this is. I've actually attended a lecture, and I felt really, really dirty about being a game developer in my life. Very well known company, right? And I'm not going to mention it, right? But yes, they built this really, really cute looking game, and they're like, yeah, but they're like, okay, this is how we monetize, right? This is what we do. And I don't really care about 95% of my players, but the 5%, they're going to spend about $1,500 a month. They know it. They know what the triggers are. They spend time looking at the demographics, looking at the social behaviors, this understanding the psychosocial conditioning that people will have. They are going after the ones who have trauma and who have low self-esteem and who are. So they're building the content for that purpose. That's very different from somebody wanting to do immersive storytelling and trying to build something compelling, right? And so I think there's a difference, and I think it's always important for people to pay attention, to think about being responsible, not just pay lip service to it, but as a professional, you always need to be able to be aware of what it is that you create, right? And especially if you're going to create immersion.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. You have to really find that meaning that you're trying to create. Right?
Yes, it's the highest form of creativity, right? Meaning making, right? Or in fact, allowing your audience or user to have meaning making, right? The best songs, the best movies. The last slide, I just wanted to kind of end off my slide. Just the opposite of Zuckerberg feeling glib about people in virtual reality is, this, a lot of really cool work is being done in medical science with XR as well. Recently, this was a surgery which was performed in the UK using the Vision Pro, and the pass-through. The pass-through video was very useful for the assisting surgeon to be able to see exactly what's going on in the very close confines of what was happening in the surgery, and so. I see that this is going to be, there's a lot of different things where a helpful pair of eyes can be very useful. So visual pass-through, video pass-through is itself very, very powerful. But imagine now when you're going to be able to put content in front of people, which is informed from all the various different kinds of IoT devices that are there. We're like 8 billion people on the planet. There's more than 300 billion IoT devices on the planet, right? So you can imagine all the different kinds of information that can be put in front of your eyes, and in such important context for anything that you could be doing in your job. It could be life-saving. It could be self-preservation. It can be in general, like even taking care of the planet and stuff like that. I think we are just scratching the surface of what's possible, and I think that this is one of those fields that's got humongous potential coming up. huge potential coming up.
I see it. And is this like
I wanted to leave
your vision?
I wanted to leave on a hand because
Yes,
I tend to.
It's good. Yeah. I think that's something that we should contribute to the society.
Yes.
Some of. So maybe just following up from this, right? You showed this Mark Zuckerberg. Is this a doctored image?
No, this is real. This
I
happened.
didn't see this.
This happened. Yeah.
It's very cool. I'm not sure it's cool or not.
I'm very candid. It's. I'm like, yes, he paid $1 billion for Oculus, right? So he's going to be happy with thousands of people using Oculus. It could be looked at from that perspective, but he's also the only billionaire in that room and is the only one who's not wearing the at this point in time. So
okay, but these two images reminded me, not reminded, but make me think about that review which Mark Zuckerberg did himself. Watch that video of the Vision Pro.
I do believe that, actually. I do agree with that. I think the Quest 3 does a pretty good job for something that costs 1/6 of what the Vision Pro costs, right? With video pass-through. It's not that much better to be so expensive. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Basically, $3,000 plus today and $5,000 SIM for Vision Pro. I don't see the value in that. Right? XR Cut Elite at half the price. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good point. Okay. But would you want or is the Vision Pro at that price point? Do you see a market for that to do something different?
Like I said, I'm like absolutely not in the Apple fan club kind of boy. So anything I'm going to say is going to be biased, but what I can tell you is that usually when Apple does something, it becomes big. It tends to figure out. Surprisingly, not so for Vision Pro yet. I think they missed the bus a little bit with having enough headsets ready to start selling on the high point. So I don't know. I think this very long gap between the first batch and the second batch is still not here. I don't know how that's going to kind of play out, but usually Apple was really on the top of the game with putting out something new and having lots of people, which kind of also tells me that maybe it's not this Vision Pro that's going to make it big. Maybe they're going to, they're doing like a test market study type thing, and then they'll do something more. There was a report that came out that a lot of people who bought the Vision Pro returned it. So, yeah. And it might have been because of the price point. So I don't know. I'm like, as a B2B developer, I usually recommend to users depending on the use case. So we have sold some Varios a $10,000 headset, much more expensive than Apple Vision, but it's really, really good when it comes to vision pass-through and rendering and stuff like that. I personally prefer the YAV ecosystem, simply because all the stuff is modular and you can change everything. But if I was to go buy a headset for my home use, I'd probably buy a Quest 3. Right? So, yeah, consumer friendly thing right now.
And you spoke a lot about using HMDs, but at the same time, at the start of your slides, you also showed a slide on WebXR. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things that you're doing for large corporations. Use that. So when you use WebXR, do you think about deploying to HMDs?
Yes. OpenXR, pretty much everything works with OpenXR today. So yes, you should, and it works quite well. In fact, I think that's where the world's going towards. Basically, I think we're going to see a huge proliferation of WebXR over video pass-through happening more so than augmented reality, right? So I see that's like, I don't see how that kind of application was going to be built extensively in something like Unity or Unreal. I think those are much better suited for a full immersion kind applications, right? So I think WebXR has not seen its zenith yet. It's coming. It's going to be bigger.
Okay. So for something that is using or to the decision is to use a WebXR kind of a tech stack, right? Do you consciously build different interfaces for the different modalities that it deploys on? Like
Absolutely has to be. In fact, if you are going to build something that's going to work on a touchscreen laptop and a phone, and you don't build two development schemas for it, you're just not very smart, right? Because when there are keys and a mouse, it's still the most intuitive way in which to move around, right? Touchscreens are clumsy, right? But if that's all you got, then of course you use the touchscreen, right? So, and I think nowadays orientation with the gyroscopic input, natural language processing, all of those things are becoming input mechanisms. And depending on what you're trying to do, you really got to think about what's your interaction going to be like.
And in terms of locomotion, right? I mean, moving around in space, in some of these experiences, and it's so we did some work on that. That's why we have that device over there. It's particularly challenging in VR due to motion sickness. I think that's one of the key things. So, how, in your company, do you spend some time just dealing with?
Yes. So again, I'm like, depending on what you're trying to do, choosing the right kind of HMD makes a lot of difference. I think again, XR Elite. I think I'm sounding like a fan club or like a salesperson, but I think it's a neat little headset which doesn't kind of completely shut you off, and in your peripheral vision you can still see the real world. The pass-through is pretty good as well. I'd see that a lot of people feel a lot less uncomfortable using that kind of a thing. So I feel that the lighter headsets that are going to come, even if the immersion is not going to be as extreme, I think are going to work better necessarily. If you're going to lie back on your couch and you're going to consume content on that, then definitely a full immersion, fully blocked out kind of headset makes sense. But for most people, having some access to reality, even if it's just on the periphery, prevents extreme nausea or instant kind of reflux action.
All right. So following up from that, right? How do you balance like the technical limitations, right? Especially when choosing like more accessible devices, like there's the cardboard over there, which is like a whole but still relevant in some use cases.
Yes.
With the desire to create more immersive experiences, which may include less sickness or more presence.
Okay.
Do you
Kiss principle. Keep it simple. It's stupid, right? The idea is that, right? So you do not introduce a modality into your development process unless it's absolutely necessary. So if I want to create a nostalgia based visit down the memory lane app for somebody who's got dementia or Alzheimer's, I'm going to build it Google Cardboard. Simply because they may not have headsets. They're not going to be able to do a very long time in this anyways. And basically, if I can just have them look around and have whatever content that needs to be move based on their very simplistic input, I think that's a blessing. I'm just going to count it and just build it on that. If I need to build something where I'm going to have somebody do something skillful and have to use their hands, like a job or something, then I'm going to use something which can do hand tracking, right? I'm not going to use joysticks unless they're absolutely mandatory to my experience. Moving around unless it's completely necessary in my experience. Just because something is available doesn't mean you have to use it, right? So you really have to think about what are you trying to do. And I'm like, if you're going to create a haiku type immersive experience, which is mostly about the 3D storytelling in XR, yeah, don't use any controller, right? And yes, the simpler you can keep it, the more profound the storytelling can happen. With that simplicity, the more skill you display. That's how I think about it, right? You can keep adding depending on what you need, right? Teach somebody how to play football and want them to be able to angle and spin the ball. Yes, I need a very complicated controller to handle that, right? You can only learn how to play golf in virtual reality if you're using a golf simulator. Same way with flying, right, or driving. But if you don't need it, don't use it.
Yeah, that's a good approach. Start from the simplest possible. If you sort of wrongly start from the most complex thing, then you keep moving, right?
Yeah.
That's the gist.
That's what I believe, right? Yeah. Least, see, go back to that whole point, right? A lot of people are just simply not comfortable in your content. Make them comfortable. If they are comfortable, they'll stay in your content longer.
Yeah,
if you,
that's a big thing, especially now.
Yeah.
Immersive experiences.
Simple. Yeah. Very simple.
I saw that you have a patent
Yes.
with regards to display hardware.
Yes.
So it looks like ages ago you had some
Yes.
deep knowledge in there. Part of this module, we sort of delved a bit deeper into how most VR HMDs can be reduced to magnified displays. I'm not sure if you, what do you think about the future of HMD hardware? Can they still do more than a magnification thing? Yeah.
Okay, so there's something called neural link that's being developed.
I know of the Elon Musk neural link.
Yeah.
The same thing.
There is something which has been done recently by a company that we work with very closely called Rapport, and they worked with creating a neural link where they were able to process signals from a person's brain into language using an NLP processor, and then that language into animated facial animation, right? Facial reconstruction animation. So for people who were quadriplegics and completely bedbound and couldn't move at all and couldn't have any control over their facial muscles, they were able to emote and talk freely using a virtual avatar. I believe that there is nothing stopping us from being able to connect directly with our occipital lobe and have immersive experiences without actually needing any kind of HMD at all, right? Yes. And there's everything else in the middle, right? So, like I said, somebody's filed a patent, and I think in South by Southwest there was a recent demo as well of somebody who had contact lenses which could show straight right near your cornea. There are all kinds of glasses that are being developed, everything from HoloLens down. Visual pass-through, I think, is already here and it's doing extremely well, and it's going to keep doing better. Yeah, I think the hardware battle is on. It's very real. I don't think it's the end of screens. I think people are still going to use, just like we still read books, right? I'm like, there's no reason for anybody to have a book today because you've got like your Kindle and your virtual books and stuff like that. But it's just so much more satisfying to read a real book, right? So I think cinema halls and televisions are still going to exist, right? I don't think everything's going to go XR instantly. I may be wrong, but I don't think that it's going to be the end of all different kinds of media. I think everything's going to find its own niche, right? I think your car windshield will be an XR display for showing certain kinds of content. Your glasses will become an XR display. Your contact lenses may become an XR display. And like I said, there might be neural links as well, right? And so, yeah, there's going to be all kinds of devices. And I think people are going to be able to, wow,
Okay.
choose their poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious point there. And I think that there is a space for accessible immersive devices as well.
Yes.
Just extending from what you mentioned about Neuralink.
It's there, right? I mean, like the phone's there. Everybody, when we tell our customers, first thing we tell them is everybody owns a phone, right? Basically, so whatever you build, make sure it works on what everybody owns, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you?
And actually, I was referring to even beyond that.
Yeah.
We were saying how Neuralink enables a maybe paralyzed person to
Yes.
control something
Yeah.
with alternative form of control. In the same manner, I think immersive hardware or XR hardware may also be meant for maybe people who are blind, people who can't hear. We just need to think about what immersion means for persons with such different issues. Yeah.
Yes. I think that there's going to be like some weird stuff as well. I do remember that somebody connected a camera on a backpack behind themselves and then wore an Oculus set so they could live their life in third person.
Okay.
Right? So,
Okay, cool.
yeah, I think there's all kinds of stuff's going to happen. Right? And I'm excited about that world. I think that's going to be cool.
Okay. So I think we're left with about 10 minutes. Yeah. So maybe if we can bring it back to where you started and maybe derive some insights for students who want to come to this field. My question is, when you came, I sort of told you I saw something interesting from your profile, which is that you played games professionally.
Yes.
When was that? How was that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I got very lucky. I was like born in a household where my parents, even though they themselves don't, they're not technologists, but they were very interested by buying new gadgets. So I got my Atari 9200 in the early 80s, 83, right? I was about 4 or 5 years old. I got a compact 286 DX2 in 1985.
Basically,
Right.
through that.
Yes.
Today,
I remember playing
At 5
Quake.
years old.
Yeah, I remember playing Quake and Wolfenstein and all the games as they came out. I was fascinated by computer games from a very, very early age. I just spent, in the coin-op machines days, I spent a lot of money playing Mario, Double Dragon, Contra, and all of those games.
Yeah.
Then I got an opportunity because I was, I kept buying computers, and I recognized my tremendous privilege, right? I was born. My mom was in advertising, and my father was in television, so there was always technology in the house, right? So there was cameras and stuff like that, and and so from day one there was always computers and technology in the house, and I always kind of learned how to play and always had access to computers from a very early age, even when computers were not a thing, right? So I got to use like Photoshop version 1. I got to use 3 Studio before it became, Max, and then became Connect, and then became Discrete, right? And then became Autodesk. I remember that entire journey. I've used all those softwares all of those years. I started playing computer games professionally because I was one of the very few people who had a rig, who played a lot of games. And so initially, first I started playing demonstration matches, where I would go to various malls in India, in some of the bigger cities in India, and play computer games so that people could see what computer games are, and they could also buy computer games, because at that time in India, coin operated machines and TV games were big, but computer games were not so big. So we wanted to kind of differentiate them. So I played for Microsoft for some time. I played for Valve for some time. I used to get paid to go and do demo matches. Then I played in the World Cyber Games. I won the Microsoft War of the Billion, which was real-time strategy games. So I played Age of Empires. I played Age of Mythology, and a little bit of Quake 3 Team Arena. But then my APM was getting kind of slow. That's 23, my APM was kind of getting slow, and at that time there was not much money in games, so I started doing a job. Right? And then I got lucky. Again, this is just about the time of the .com crash. I was selling airtime sales to a company, and that guy was planning to invest in some website. It was a eBay knockoff called kabadibazar.com. PricewaterhouseCoopers had kind of valued it at a couple of $1 million. And he was going to buy 10% of the company, and he asked me, because I was selling digital airtime. So he said, digital, you guys, you must know something about this. I'm thinking of investing in this. And I was like, I wouldn't, because, they're only talking about eyeballs. And just this happened in October. December, the .com bubble collapsed. Long story short, he saved a lot of money. So I got a call 3 months later. He's like, you saved me a lot of money, and if you want to start a company, I'll put some money behind you. This is 2000, and I had no idea what to do.
But every digital company crash, you start.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's like, what do you want to build? And then I started thinking about what, actually on that phone call, I told him I have no idea. But then I started thinking about what, and I was like, hey, computer games. I want to make a computer game. And so I called him up and I said, if you seed fund me, I'll make a computer game. And that's how I started my first studio. And here I am.
Would you say that your vast experiences in playing games seriously has in any way informed how you develop?
Completely. I believe that if you don't enjoy the medium, you can't create content for that medium. If you don't like music, you can't make music. If you don't like movies, you can't make movies. If you don't like games, you can't play games. If you are an XR developer and if you've never used an XR experience in your life, you are not going to be able to do a good job. Some of the best people I know in the industry, game developers, they have very, very serious habits about how they play games. Right. I myself have a huge library, constantly keep buying games on Steam, keep looking at demos, keep playing games. If you're just going to play the same game every day over and over again and you think that you're a gamer, you're a consumer gamer. You're not going to be a developer. If you want to be a developer, you're going to have to challenge yourself to play all the different types of genres, even the ones that you think you don't like, and try to understand why they work for the audiences that they do, right? It's just like food, right? Everybody likes to eat food. Very few people like to cook, right? So to learn how to cook, you have to have a very good appreciation of all the ingredients, right? And you're only going to be able to get that by expanding your palette across. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
There's a very related question on this from the audience.
Fortunately, don't have to do very many job interviews right now, so I don't talk a lot about it. But yes, when I originally wrote my resume, the first thing I wrote was I'm a professional gamer.
What about to the investor?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Oh, so I have a story about that actually. First time I showed up to this is my second company. So just to finish that story off, first company collapsed. It didn't do very well. I didn't know what I was doing.
Only one company is already a very good track record, right? Okay.
So, but I had gotten a taste of what it was, game development meant. So the first company collapsed because we were building a 2D multiplayer real-time strategy game, and I spent about 9 months. We built our own engine. It was really, really cool. I was really into the whole RTS genre. Some of my favorite games, Command and Conquer, Age of Empires, Duck Rain, were in that space. And
See why you're WCG.
yeah,
Is that job?
the area of mythology came out just about when we were about to release Ranbhoomi, which was my game on, and like everybody was like 2D games are dead. So the guy who had like very happily offered me that like off the cuff investment also shut it off. He was like this he's like there's no future in this. So we never got to release that game. So second time around, because I'd already built an engine, I was pretty familiar with what I wanted to do. We quickly redid a cricket game, and I went around looking for funding. I was like, it's going to be easy to find funding for cricket in India, and so I showed up.
You beat the cricket game before.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I showed up for a meeting in Mumbai with where my merchant banker had set up a meeting with a potential investor. So I was working with a venture banker who was helping me for a small fee talk to potential investors. And when I showed up for that meeting, I wore a suit. Right. Of course, I wore a suit. I was going to meet an investor, and I was going to ask for a couple of $100,000. And I just showed up over there, and my banker just went off on me. He's like, "What the hell are you doing? Are you trying to sabotage the whole thing?" I said, "What? So you don't look like a gamer." Said, "What? Hey, you look like a businessman. He's not going to put money behind a suit." So I said, "What do you want me to do?" You look like a gamer. So I quickly threw my jacket out, took off my shirt, untucked my shirt, took off my thing, rolled up my sleeves, and that was it. That's how I went and met the investor, that I didn't care, but because I had gone there dressed up and gone there wearing a suit. So yeah, it's kind of important to show that you have a gamer right in the culture. I do know that some of the bigger well-known faces in the games industry in Singapore, if you meet them, they look like gamers. You know they are gamers because they look like gamers, right? So.
Yeah. So on a related note, I think almost the last question, is for students, right, who want to enter the industry, or who wants to start a company in the industry. I think whether it's gaming or building immersive experiences, maybe there's a slight difference there. Maybe since the topic
quite similar.
Or the topic here is more immersive experiences. What would you tell them that they need to build?
Work on yourself first. Understand that you have to have deep appetite and a culture for learning. You're not going to last in this industry if you're not going to be able to reinvent yourself. Right now we're talking about Babylon JS. Tomorrow something may come up in C# or day after tomorrow everybody might be doing stuff in Python, right? We don't know. Gen AI may become really, really big and things like that. The world's changing constantly, right? First thing, make sure you're ready for that change. And so train yourself to learn new things all the time. Learning to learn is the most important thing you're learning in any institute or company or, situation you are in, right? That's the most important. And, I think it's a lot of times people just don't understand that it's fundamental finding to being able to do well in anything.
Learning to unlearn as well, right?
Yeah, learning to unlearn. Yeah. Constantly.
Okay.
Constantly. Correctly. Absolutely. You're correct. Right. Second thing. Actually, this should be the first thing. Sorry. And this one I know that it sounds horrible, but your attitude towards your work is going to define your entire experience in life, right? I believe that as a developer, you've got to know that you are a content, like a creator, right? There's a difference between a creator and a consumer of everything. Creatorship, the act of creating itself, whether you believe in capitalism or don't believe in capitalism, wants equal rights for everyone or whatever, the act of creating and contributing to society itself is noble, right? I really do believe that work is worship in that sense. I'm not asking you to bow down to your corporate overlord or whatever, any of those things. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm saying fundamentally, to be human and to be happy, you're going to be able to have to express yourself and create stuff for the community, for the society. So your attitude towards your work is going to define whether you're miserable or happy, right? When you're doing work, if you're feeling intrinsically happy, if you're like contributing to society, feel like you're contributing to society, that itself is the foundation for everything else, right? So I think it's very, very important because we always look at work somehow. A lot of people look at work from a consumption perspective. I don't enjoy this. I don't like making this. This is hard. This is boring. I want to stop this and then go eat or drink or watch some reels or hang out with my friends. I'm not saying that that's not important. It's really important to have for your mental hygiene, for your mental well-being. But just as important as that stuff is, consumption is, creation has to have the same kind of feeling for you. You're going to have to feel like your work makes a meaningful difference. So if you think that you have to suffer through work before you can enjoy consumption, you're never going to be able to do well in this space at least, right? Because you've got to be invested in development, right? And so that's what leads to wanting to learn constantly. The learning to learn is kind of derivative of this, but I think these are two of the things. So you have to work at yourself first, build a portfolio. Completing things is as important as starting things, right? So if you have one, mega project that's never completed, no matter how much technical skill you're able to display in it, it's not going to be as cool as the whole library of different types of things that so complete things. Show completed things. In most of the companies that I know of, people prefer to see your work history than anything else, right? So if you've built a lot of projects and if you've delivered a lot of projects, and if you can show that you were passionate about that part, right, that's going to make a huge difference.
Would you feel when a fresh graduate shows you an entire portfolio of past
100%. That's how we hire. I'm like in Playware. At Playware, at LDR as well as Immersive, all the companies that I've worked with, my fundamental is that we like to hire practitioners, right? We like to hire practitioners, people who consider themselves practitioners. So you do stuff because you want to do it, right? You improve because you have a skill, you recognize and you want to improve your skill, and you're familiar with the tools, right? That's what we need, right? That's basically. And now, if you happen to be a student, yeah, that's extra jackpot for us, right? So yeah, you know, here we're getting fresh, new mind, new ideas, right? But if the work ethic already is there, if the learning ethic, you know, that culture is there, then great. And that's how we hire.
Yep. I think that's should be all the time we have. Thanks for that advice for all the students who are listening here. And I think spoken like a true entrepreneur, you know, focus on the attitude, find meaning in the work that you need to do that actually, you know, has a meaningful contribution to society.
Yes.
I think that's all good. And then, you know, the point.
I've seen people who are actually happy doing free work, right? Social enterprise work, simply because they can see the meaning of what they're doing, right? So it's not the money. I'm like, yes, it's really awesome to make money. I tell you, don't ever get this wrong. It feels really awesome to make money. But trust me that there are so many things that you do, like teaching, right? I'm like, I find it so meaningful that when you know that you're making meaning of your life, right? When you're contributing back to society, that's the best sleep you can get, right? And no amount of consumption is not going to give you the same feeling, right? It's, you know, you can go on a holiday, but if you lived on a holiday, it would not be a holiday anymore.
Yeah. And I also like the point you are making about always, you know, learning, be open to unlearn things, and you also demonstrated it, you know, from how you described what it takes for developing all this immersive experiences and games. From you know, at the start you showed how you need to cater for a lot of different aspects of computer science, of networking and stuff, to understanding the physiology of cyber sickness, all the research that you have shown and you know, sort of articulated and understood what this is, and it's not like I just know that this is, you know, causing people to vomit, but you need to know why and how to resolve that. Yeah, to the physics and you know, all the math that goes behind it. I think you really need to
I tell my kids all the time, I said, school is the best time in your life. You don't know it yet, right? You will know it. One day you will know it. When you're out of school, you're like, oh my God, that was so good.
Yeah. So good. I think with that, I think we will end.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. Yes.
From our department.
Okay.
Don't ask me who chose what to give as corporate tips, but this is from
thank you.
Technology Cluster.
Oh wow. Okay.
So thank you
so much. Awesome.
for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you, Check. Yep.
Sorry for the strange setup.